Welcome to Bonehead Weekly. This week, we want to let you know that we have a special topic for you. We've worked really hard. We went down into the archives of the Bonehead Weekly Megastore, and what we found there that we really need to talk about with the rest of you all is this. We actually don't have a topic for this week. We had one planned. We decided to do other things, and we have a topic for next week, and it all just got screwed. So we're doing another no topic episode.
But
Yeah.
but I do have some things I'll throw out because I think there's a couple things I want to ask you all, and this is I
Well,
mean
don't
this
throw out
somewhat
the
relevant.
baby with the water. I just wanted to say that.
Well, why is the baby in that much water? Why are you drowning them babies? Anyway, my question is this, gentlemen. I was listening to the radio. I know, Joe, you're part of that Amish commune, but see, a radio is something where music is transferred through the air.
Excuse me, sir.
Anyway,
I actually pay for the Sirius, and Chad can attest that I don't even listen to it. I just flip through it every
He
30
flips
seconds.
through it. Just flips.
hold on.
You
You
fall-
can't be serious. Please sponsor us. Please, Jesus, sponsor
And by the way-
Sirius.
by the
Here's
way,
a
why
Yahoo Sirius.
Why he was flipping, we had a 20-minute conversation about what the hell do the Bodine sing?
Anyway, my
That's
point
actually
is,
accurate, and I have seen the Bodines live. I'm the one. I'm that guy.
I was listening to the radio, and I don't know if you kids remember The Offspring, but
Yeah.
an Offspring
I
song
like
came
The
on, and it has the lyric of "I may be dumb, but I'm not a dweeb," which made me actually think, what happened to the term dweeb? When
I
was the
still
last
use
time you
it.
heard anybody call? Okay, when was the last time you heard anybody relevant call somebody a dweeb?
I don't know. You want me to call you a dweeb from now on?
No, I'm more of a nerd or a geek. But you know what I mean. It seems like there was a brief window of time when you had nerd and geek and
Yeah.
dweeb, and dweeb seems to have fallen off.
I don't know.
Is it because Offspring killed it? Do you think Offspring killed it? Can we hashtag Offspring at
Yeah,
Offspring
you can-
this and
You're the one who's on the damn tweeters.
well, not all the time. Sometimes I'm
You're
also
on the tweeters a hell of a lot more than me.
sometimes I'm also on the Facebook and the OnlyFans.
Well, yeah, the OnlyFans, yeah. Yeah, that goes without saying.
But no, I honestly was sitting there going, that was a hit song, but we don't
Yeah.
hear dweeb anymore.
Well, you should say dweeb more.
Did it go the way of tubular?
No, I still say tubular.
Once again, does anybody relevant say these terms?
Yeah, I usually put, but when I say dweeb, I usually put F in front of it.
Effing dweeb sounds weird. Why didn't you just say fucking?
I trying to clean it up for today's episode. I just
Why
You
this
fucked it
episode?
up.
I just can't say dweeb by itself. There has to be some other there has to be an adjective in front of it, and usually it's an expletive adjective,
Well, what would you put in front of dweeb?
explicit adjective. I don't.
Explicit adjective dweeb is hard to say.
I know. No, it's usually
Well.
it's shit-eating dweeb. Yeah,
I've
effing dweeb.
never heard you call anybody a shit-eating dweeb.
It's usually when I'm by myself driving and somebody just pisses me
And
off.
it's usually
talking to
Joe.
yourself?
You're
Are you-
usually
yeah.
talking.
I talk to
you-
myself all the time when I drive by myself. You all don't?
Yeah. Oh
Are you
no, I
all
do.
are you calling yourself a shit-eating dweeb?
Sometimes. Have you
No,
seen his
I-
face?
I talk to myself all the time. I like to have an intelligent conversation.
Mm,
Huh.
I bet you're 20 minutes late to your own conversation.
I bet he was too.
Actually,
Did anybody
are
ask
you-
James would he be
I-
here?
actually-
No, James is always late.
I always argue with myself because nobody hates me more than me. By the way, though, speaking of which, we got a no topic episode here. You kids know I don't read. I haven't read. I've read some of it, but I haven't read. I'm not a diehard Stephen King fan.
Yeah.
If you go back and watch any of our 72 Stephen King episodes, you'll slowly pick up on this.
The
due-
monster is dead. Let it go.
We're due
I don't
for
know.
another one.
Well, no, hold on.
There's been a lot more.
Gentlemen, as you know, I've been driving back and forth. I drive quite a bit, and I'm in my car, and I go to places like Ollie's and places that have please sponsor us, Ollie's. Places that have books on CD because I still have a CD player in my car because I drive something from 1962s. Anyway, and I picked up. They had Fright or Flight, the collection of stories he edited and wrote an original story for with Bev. I want to say Bev Vincent. I may get
Bev
this.
Biv DeVoe. Belle Biv DeVoe.
But anyway,
That girl's
And-
poison.
and Joe Hill wrote a story for it.
Poison.
But so if you know, do you own? I know you have a lot of the Stephen King. Do you have Fight or Flight? Fright
No, I
or
do
Flight?
not. I do not. No one will buy me things because I'm ugly.
Well, I mean, I got nothing. But anyway, it's
I
a
don't have
really good
things- I
anthology.
don't have things either because I'm also ugly.
And so I got it, but I got it book on tape. I didn't get the book.
Yeah.
But I was gonna say, it was a fascinating collection. Joe Hill's is really interesting. And Stephen King's is okay. Stephen King, as he points out, this is my third story because he does some of the narration, some of the readings. It's his third story involving a plane. Langoliers. I'm forgetting the other one. Night Flyer. And then this one is called it's not Turbulence Coordinators. It's something like that though. But anyway, it's interesting. What I was going to say though is the nice thing about this collection is it has a bunch of other. It has Ray Bradbury. It has, and I was introduced to a story, and it actually got to me the premise. And there's nothing really to it per se, unless you want to put it there. But have you all ever heard of the story? And I need to look up who it's by. It's in that collection. Cargo.
I don't remember off the top of my head.
Well, I'll tell you the premise. It's about this military transport coordinator.
It's pronounced premise.
Okay. The premise of this is he's a cargo coordinator.
It took me a second to even know what the fuck that boy was talking about.
Because you're a dweeb.
A shit-eating dweeb, and I'm hideous. Hideous shit-eating dweeb.
Oh my god, that can be our version of Chud. Anyway,
shit-eating dweeb. Hey, Shed.
Anyway, we have, but the plot line is he's a cargo coordinator in the military, which all that means is he's got a military rank. But when they have to transport something on these big transport planes, he has to coordinate how they can get all the luggage in. Right. And it's set in the 1970s, I believe. And they get the call that they have to go to Jamestown to pick up all the caskets because the military helped clear it out. And on the way back, again, did it happen? Did it not? Up to you. Listen to the story or read the story. It's great. It literally, out of this entire collection, it wasn't a Stephen King story that got to me. It was Cargo, because somebody starts to freak out and says that he can hear the children playing still because they're transporting the children's bodies.
Yeah.
And then at one point, somebody actually freaks out and goes, "Just open up the caskets and let them out to play."
Mm-hmm.
And it's such an effective scene because he's obviously having some trauma. He's having flashbacks. He's having other things. And it's what is causing this noise on this plane. What is causing? And then the story just keeps going. But it's one of the stories. It's one of the only recent horror stories, not novels, because there's definitely been some novels and novellas that have worked on me, but short story wise, where probably in about 10 pages, it got to me. Like I was sitting there going, "Oh God, what would you do?" Because you're trapped. You're on a plane.
Yeah. And
you're just hearing children playing and children laughing and you're transporting children's caskets. It got to me. So if you look it up, Cargo. There you go.
I don't think I want to look that up.
Let's see.
You love the Jamestown cult. You're always like, "James, won't you join this cult with me?" And I'm like, "No, Chad, it's not going to be like Jonestown." I keep saying Jonestown. It's not going to be like the Jonestown cult. That's not going to happen again. You usually just end up having me join some pyramid scheme. And I don't even care about the Egyptians.
It's all tropical and nice and full of snakes, you dweeb.
I don't like snakes.
Dweeb. Shit eating, you breaking your own rules.
James hasn't irritated.
He's unmanageable.
He's unmanageable. Yeah. Well, what else you all got going on? Well, Chad, we probably should talk about yesterday.
Yeah, let's do it. Yeah, I mean,
so
let's put a joke spin on it, because it gets kind of rough in places, but yeah.
Well, it gets a little rough. I'm glad you had a good experience. I'm glad you had that one in particular experience, and you can talk about it if you want. But for our longtime listeners or watchers, we've been trying to get some stuff down because 2 out of the 3 boneheads are from Eastern Kentucky, and one of us is from true Southeastern Kentucky. That's me. James is from the college town of Moorhead. Yeah. And they had some serious flooding, and we wanted to try to help. And God bless the Greers. Jamie and her son Jackson drove all the way down from Ashland. And when I say they had a truck full, Chad, it was sitting on, as they say in Eastern Kentucky, the binders, was it not?
Yeah.
Yeah, there
Now
was a lot
it
of
was sitting on the binders, but let's do a quick Kentucky check. But was it riding on bologna skins?
no, because
Well,
they're the
good.
Greers and they have money. It was a brand new truck.
Oh, good. So the
No,
the
Greers-
tires weren't bologna skins. We're
no,
good then.
the Greers don't roll around that. But so just a shout out to them. They've been great. And I talked to him a little bit. I talked to Jared, who owns Comic Con, and he and his wife, and we're going to be at Fall Fan Fest. This is an exclusive. Bonehead's going to have a table at Fall Fan Fest coming here in September at the convention center in Lexington. And we've already started discussing. Jared contacted me last night, and I haven't even told the other two Boneheads this kind of live that we're going to be doing some stuff there, and we may be I don't want to give too much away because it's not a done deal, and we both have different ideas what we should do. And one of us is the boss, and it's, by the way, not me. So what we did do is they brought some stuff. We did some collections. We've been some sharing. I actually, since I posted the thing last night about, hey, we did this, which this has been taped about 4 or 5 days before you actually are going to hear it. I had several people at work today stop me, gentlemen, saying, "Oh, when can I bring it?" Yeah,
Yeah.
I know.
Well,
The
but
first time I heard it, though, you get where I'm going with this, right? The first time I was like, well, you could have brought it this shit 24 hours ago, but I didn't say any of that. What I said, I stopped myself and said, anytime you'd like, I'll arrange another, we'll do it, right?
yeah.
And then
You
I've been
probably take it to another county.
yeah, that's what I actually said. Is I think we did Breathitt last time, and I think next time we'll either do Knott or Letcher or Perry County. So that being said, we had an absolute James couldn't make it, couldn't get out of Mississippi in time, but we missed him, and we had I actually had a really good day.
Same
And
here.
we worked hard. We kept up with those National Guards guys.
Yep.
I mean, all of
Yeah.
them 12 years old, but Chad and I were unloading trucks, and it was sweaty. These two old women kept hitting on us. That didn't happen. I just want to make that.
Yeah, I was gonna say, when did that happen?
They were just being
If you're gonna, by the way, if you're gonna make up a story, did you have to make them old? Like,
yeah.
No, because there was someone who was lovely there, who was friendly, but it just would have been too creepy for me to have said anything to her other than "thank you, ma'am," and "yes, ma'am," and "where would you like me to put this, ma'am?" And the other one would be that's just our luck. It would have either been a really big bear who would have been hitting on us, and either the actual kind of bear or a big big furry gay guy, or old women. Gentlemen, am I wrong? Especially from
I literally, and this is a true story. I'm not making this up. My wife can verify this. We were once on vacation, and I've realized who I'm attractive to, not who I'm attracted to, but who finds me attractive, tends to be the only people I've had, and they had a couple. You could tell there were these elderly British ladies in probably their mid to late 70s, and one of them actually pinched me, and I'm not going to go into further details, but it turns out, gentlemen, that I'm a reverse Sean Connery. Sean Connery, everybody found him attractive as he got older. What turns out, and because he was not, he had the accent. Well, evidently, I work for 70-year-old British women. Just FYI, not all of them. So British women don't assume. Don't be like, don't tag us. Be like, no, he doesn't do anything for me. I know I'm hideous. It's okay.
Huh.
Anyway, so Chad, what do you want to add to that? I mean, we ended up we have a couple of good stories that we'll probably tell in private, but
Yeah.
you want to talk about your moment?
Yeah, no, I mean, it was just I almost wrote back on the Facebook thing, but yeah, it was just, we brought pillows. One of Joe's friends and one of the Comic Con.
Tyler out there is by the way, he called me last night to thank us, and I hadn't got to tell you, Chad. And if he had your and if he had your number, he would have called you. And
no thanks are needed. But no, it was
but
yeah, but so he told us to bring pillows, and we brought all these pillows, and somebody there told us to put them outside on a pallet. And that didn't sit right with either of us. But we did what he told us to do, and then we proceeded to because we were just going to drop the stuff off and go, but we were waiting, and we said, "Well, what can we do? We're here to help." So we ended up unloading a bunch of things, and we kind of got used to the lay of the land where everybody was picking up the canned goods
Yeah.
and putting things away. So we were putting things out, and as we were wrapping up, I noticed that at no point in time nobody had pillows out there. So I said, "Joe, let's go find somebody, see if we can find if there's a place to put these pillows." And we talked to this really nice lady. I didn't get her name. She says, "You all have pillows. Please bring them in. They're put them at this table over here." So it was as soon as we put the pillows out, like as soon as we turned our back, families were swarming that table to get those pillows. And I turned around to go the opposite direction because I didn't want to be in the way. And this woman who had two kids, and another an older person who I assumed was her mom, you looked at me and started crying and just said, "You don't know what you don't know what you have until it's gone." So I almost lost it there. It was an emotional moment, and it's true. You just don't know what you have.
Yeah, our friend,
Um,
real quick, Tyler Phillips had told us, he said, you know, a lot of people are bringing water, and this is just, and I don't want to be sad about this all the time, but just so people know, if you want to give back, we did a post about it, and I don't know, Chad, if you have any arguments about what I posted, but if you want to give back
yeah,
pillows, blankets, gloves, what else was I missing? Things that they are,
blankets.
yeah, blankets. I just said blankets.
Oh, you did. I can't, man. I'm sorry.
He's doing it again, James. You're not calling him out for it.
No, I didn't want to interrupt. I mean, because I couldn't
He
make
didn't hear
it.
blankets either. He was sitting there.
I
No.
couldn't make. I actually feel bad because I couldn't make it. But you know,
But well, and if you don't have any money, and Tyler Phillips, by the way, fantastic person for telling us this, and he told us that he'd give a pillow to somebody in it.
Yeah, it
Almost
made their day and they cried, and I'm like, "Oh," and I didn't expect that to happen to me, and it
but
happened to me. And
yeah.
of course, in sheer Chad fashion, who is the most people who listen to this who know me know the extremeness of my awkwardness. So I immediately just kind of like tucked my shoulders because I don't handle, people saying thank you in any shape, way, or form well. I just like, you're welcome, and like anytime. And but at the same time, I was walking away going, you know, it it was touching. But yeah, at the same time, I'm like, oh God, this is social.
And you know that was actually one of the best parts. Is it was social. A lot of people were very nice to us and very
Yeah.
complimentary. Another short story is that the guy who had kind of been directing us as we were leaving, I stopped to say thanks. I didn't, and he was saying thank you, and he made a comment about us being lowlanders, and basically that he was surprised anyone from Lexington could work, right, Chad?
Yeah.
But it doesn't bother me. I'm from the area, I understand. And then proceeded to question me when I said, well, I'm actually from a holler in Leslie County. Oh, yeah? Did you know blah, blah, blah? And you know what, you son of a bitch? I did know them, and they did die of cancer, and you were shocked when I told you.
Yep.
Chad, back me up.
Yep. Yeah.
That happened.
And then, but then Joe took it a step further and be like, and I know they died of cancer because I gave it to him. And that really, really was going too far. But
I blew cigar smoke up their butt for 20 years.
Don't ask how I got in that situation where I had close access to his butts. But anyway, if you can give back, and like I've told people, if you don't have a lot of money, that's fine. If you can find 10 or 20 bucks in gas money, drive down. If you have questions, we will get you in contact with people who will help. These people need help sorting and unloading trucks, and it's great that they need help unloading trucks. And also, not to forget, this is something I talked to somebody today about, and they knew a lot more about doing a lot of this stuff than I do. And it's like, this is great for the first 2 or 3 weeks, and then everybody forgets.
well, there's
So-
and this sounds terrible, but there will be something else will happen. Other people
James,
will need help.
There you go.
Yeah,
Sorry.
so once again, we will be doing something at Fall Fan Fest. Bonehead will be at Fall Fan Fest. We'll have our own table. I would imagine that depending on how it goes, that we will be raising money at Fall Fan Fest because clearly Bonehead is not at Fall Fan Fest to make any money at all. At all. Just want you all to know that. I mean, I paid for the table, so we're already in the damn hole. So what money we will make, whatever money we get and how we do it, will be going to the relief fund for Southeastern and Eastern Kentucky.
And by the way, even if you can't travel down to help to do something like that, I want
You can't travel down to hell.
now if you can't travel down to help, there's other things you can do. I'm not sure exactly how the sponsorship. I'm not sure how it works, to be honest. But we mentioned it before. That one show with Brian Combs did an episode, and they have an arrangement where every time someone listens to that, a donation is made. I shared it. I think Bonehead shared it on Twitter.
I shared it too on Facebook.
Shared it. I mean, there's ways that you can help where literally, and I even put when I shared it through Bonehead, because it was me that shared it through Bonehead. I think I even put, listen, it doesn't matter if you hate music, put it on for your cats when you're at work. It doesn't matter.
Or if you hate Brian Combs, I did it. I did it to all my damn people I hate. It was like, listen to this son of a bitch talk about obscure shit.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty much. I mean, you know, and I'll just aside. Literally, there are other things doing something like that where they have a sponsor or they have something where, hey, you listen, give 30 minutes of your time, get exposed to some music that you may not have heard before, and his theme is hopeful music, which is definitely needed. And you listen and you make a donation that way. So there are things like that out there. Look for those if you can't travel, if you can't. I miss going because, quite frankly, I was settling some legal issues and I had to be out of state. I'm being honest.
I swear
That's
to
why I
God,
wasn't there.
normally when we make that joke, it's a joke. But he really was settling
Oh
legal.
my! And by the way, it all went south. I'm okay, but I will not go into details. Partially
The
because I
problem
have.
is he can't go back to Mississippi.
No, part of it, I can't go into details also because I have do not disclose agreements. But the point being, gentlemen, is I felt really bad that I couldn't make it, but I also know the good that happened. And there's other ways that you can do good. So if you can't travel, if you can't do something like that, you know, if your grandmother is sitting around saying, I'd like to help, be like, oh, great, Grand, here's a podcast you can listen to. Listen to some music. Maybe she's too old to work, but she can help that. I think
also tell them to listen to us just because we need to listen.
Yeah.
I was about to say, if you've got a podcast, Grandma, you want to listen to, check us out and then, you know, flipped over to the Brian Combs. That son of a bitch.
By the way, as Joe pointed out, as you can tell, we have no sponsors. I don't know why. Every time I mention the name of something, I go, "Why don't you sponsor us?" But speaking of which, have you tried this Burger King? It is the king of flavor.
Really quick, this is a good segue out of this depressing topic, which actually is a good topic. We can go down and help. I have you guys ever had anybody talk to you who were friends of yours and ask you, why don't you all have a sponsor?
Yeah,
No.
I get it all the time.
I get it a lot too.
I have literally had 3 or 4 people. As a matter of fact, as you all know, long-term listeners of the show will know that we several years ago now, what has it been, about 3 years ago now, we did an episode that I used for my class where we talked about fictional colleges in movies. And so my students listened to it. And some of them even came back going, oh, that's really, it's entertaining because you talk to each other like your friends. I'm like, we are. That's not an act. We actually do know each other. We weren't cast.
Shit, 14 hours a day.
We weren't cast. They didn't put out a casting call and be like, we need 3 geeks to talk. No, that didn't happen. We know each other. But they said, yeah, why don't you all have a sponsor? And I'm like, I don't know who's going to sponsor. We're weird. And we also don't edit ourselves. If we think something sucks, not like the great taste of Burger King, logo for Burger King, but if we think something sucks, we'll call them out. And that makes it really hard to sponsor.
And honestly, I'm at the point in my life, the first year or 2, I wanted a sponsor, and then I really didn't fight for it. And we actually thought about doing Patreon and all this. Remember, we almost pulled the trigger on Patreon. You guys remember?
Oh, I did. And there's still times when I'm like, should we?
And now I just don't. I've got a bill for our corporation sitting on my thing over here that I got to pay this week, and I always think, oh, God, at some point, it's just not fun when I have to deal with somebody and money.
Yeah, well, but you know, I do see a lot of these other groups.
Yeah, I know and if I got the money, and we've talked about this, other than equipment, I'd want to spend it on advertising for the show.
Well, yeah.
Maybe we should do a sponsor. I don't know. What do you?
No, I don't know. But honestly,
listeners, what do you guys think? I don't just dealing with the tax shit on that. It's so easy to win my file because we're incorporated.
Well, no, but I'm sorry. I was just saying about the DuPont Bonehead Hour.
Yeah.
Chesterfields is here to sponsor.
That's who we'll get.
Fun Zone.
Do you think that's who we would end up getting? Skull Bandits present.
Old Bandit would like to sponsor Joe Lewis and Chad Jennings and James Thomas and the Bonehead Weekly Glass and Metal Fun Zone.
If we had a sponsor, I would want to do it, and obviously it didn't.
I really would doubt. I
The
doubt.
Dana Carvey
I
show.
really wish it was Chesterfield's. I'd light one up if they do it.
We're sponsored by Elmer's Broom Glue, the best glue to fix your broom.
Well, no, that's one of my. And was it
actually was broom glue?
Was it Norm Macdonald who lost his sponsor, the late great Norm Macdonald? God, I still miss him. But lost his sponsor on I think it was his podcast before it became a video podcast and was on, Norm Macdonald Has a Show or whatever. When he was just doing a podcast, he had a sponsor. They were a grill company. But they didn't make actual grills. They made the inserts that you put in. So like, the Bengals logo would be on your meat or something. And I forget who the guest was, but he was doing the promotion and the guests started going, wait a second. So he just puts the logo on your meat? And Norm Macdonald couldn't do it anymore. And he started making fun of the product. And the next week he goes, we lost that sponsor.
I can't imagine why. Yeah.
Which, by the way, though, I remember that. I would have, if I was a sponsor, I'd be like, make fun of us every week because I didn't know anything about that product. But I'm telling that story now because Norm Macdonald couldn't stop making fun of it, and it's burned into my memory.
By the way, the Norm Macdonald recorded podcast. I highly recommend watching the recorded version of Norm Macdonald talking to Tim Allen, and then him bringing up Tim Allen's conviction
for drugs, right?
And for drugs, and just looking at Tim. Yeah, and looking at Tim Allen's irritated face that Norm Macdonald just brought that up. It's 100% worth it. And Norm Macdonald being completely clueless that he just pissed off Tim Allen. He just kept going. It's great.
Yeah, and for you all out there, yes, Tim the Tool Man Taylor, who you worshipped as the great father, did time in prison. And I actually remember a few years ago, he's talking about he was trying to get it.
Wait, was it weed or cocaine? I can't remember which one it was.
As drugs, he was, of course,
cocaine. It was cocaine.
A lot of comedians sold drugs. Bill Maher talks about how he really kept from having kind of a day job as he was trying to. A lot of them sold drugs, especially in the early 80s.
The famous quote from, I forget which member of the Mamas and the Papas, but watching Star Wars for the first time, I had no idea that Harrison Ford was an actor. I just knew him as my dealer.
Just knew him as my.
By the way, the Norm Macdonald sponsorship thing, like I said, it was the best advertisement they would have gotten ever, because how else would I remember the name of the man great?
Man great. When your meat needs to be grated, I don't know anything about man great.
Man great. Don't try to be a great man, Joe. Just be a man great. Fiddle that meat.
Oh, man great. Gonna have a man great. All right. So that's one. Go ahead.
I was just going to move on. I was going to ask you all about the big news that happened as of yesterday about the Batgirl.
No, Chad, can I ask a question? Can I finish? Now, Admiral. No, by the way, timely. Anyway, Chad, I've got a question about that. So, was the movie done except for special effects? Is that what I'm understanding?
Principal photography. The way I understand it, principal photography was done. I don't think they had a chance to do reshoots or anything like that.
Okay.
But yeah, to my understanding, it was all but done. They had to go back, but reshoots can take quite a bit.
And every big tentpole movie has reshoots.
Yeah, I mean,
but my thing.
Go ahead.
My thing about that is, so let's. I'm on devil's advocate here. How much had they already? Because they've already paid the cast, right? The cast didn't be like, "Oh, it's canceled. I guess I don't get paid." No, they got paid.
Oh, everything's everybody, all the bills have been paid, but they just don't. It's somewhere to fall behind that it was made for a streaming service, but then they were going to release it theatrically, and then it was going back into streaming, and then it was going back theatrically. And now that Discovery owns Warner Brothers, they're like, this is not. Apparently, there's been some rumblings that it's not that good, and it was not quality enough to go.
But they also killed J.J. Abrams' show.
Is that confirmed?
That is confirmed. As of today, they announced that it was done.
Okay. What is it?
The Justice League Dark.
Oh no! His other one that he did for him, Didonium.
Oh,
it was a show that he had done, and it was supposed to come out through HBO Max, and now it's canceled too.
Yeah, they're
Mm.
gutting HBO Max for reasons that I cannot quite comprehend.
And by the way, I was sitting there and I got my HBO auto pay alert, right? So
Yeah.
I don't mean to intimidate you all. I'm upper class. I pay for it without commercials. Uh,
HBO?
or whatever it is. I pay for the upper level one, whatever that is.
I don't have commercials either.
I don't
What-
either.
Whatever I had to pay so my wife could watch In the Heights when it first came out during the pandemic is what I paid for it, which was a step up from the base one.
I canceled Netflix because I prefer HBO Max.
But here's
But
the thing about that.
if Discovery keeps fiddling with it,
Because I was sitting there and I was like, man,
Yeah.
I pay $7 a month for Disney Plus. Is what I got locked in it. Right now they
Uh-huh.
can change, I guess. I'm paying 16 something for HBO Max, and I'm gonna be honest with you. Guess which one I watch more?
oh,
And
I
if it's getting to the point where I can't watch anything on HBO Max, because one of the things, and it's been allegedly disputed, but that at one point there was some rumblings that Peacemaker season 2 might not make it. Now that's according to
Really?
James Gunn. James Gunn goes, that's being blown out of proportion. But I'm nervous, right?
yeah, I mean, if they
mean-
get rid of Peacemaker, Doom Patrol
Yeah,
is one of my favorite shows out right now. I'm like,
yeah,
and
so
all they're focusing on is the fact that they're merging the two streaming services together. And I really don't give a shit about anything that's on Discovery Plus. It doesn't need to be on my streaming service. I'm not going to watch any of it.
well,
But again, I know that's not catered. I'm not the audience for what's on Discovery Plus.
I guess my thing about it is I'm a little bit confused because given the merger, I'm not knocking Discovery. I'm a huge science nerd. I like to watch documentaries. It took me a while to know the touch of a woman. All this is true. That being said,
Well, it
Why-
took you longer to touch her.
why is Discovery? It seems like Discovery's the one making the call. Doesn't Warner Brothers have any clout left?
No, Discovery is the one that bought Warner Brothers. They have the say in everything now.
I didn't
that's
know
what I mean.
Discovery had bought them. That's what
I thought Discovery bought them.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah,
And I'm not
I-
arguing with you. It's probably true. I just didn't realize
I
it.
could be wrong, but yeah, I thought Discovery bought Warner Brothers.
Which
But
how
yeah,
did Discovery end up in that good of a position? I don't know the business side.
Yeah,
of it. I'm very
I
curious.
I
I
don't
don't-
either. I don't
I
know
don't.
anybody who has Discovery Plus.
Yeah, I don't either. Yeah, I don't know how any of this works, but yeah, I mean, they're gutting everything in terms of a lot of the content. I mean, they're just scrapping things left and right. And then Batgirl's like the biggest example because as everybody says, it was pretty much done. And they determined that it wasn't quality enough to go to theaters and that they are so adamant about not doing it, putting anything directly on HBO Max now, which boggles the mind. Why not just put stuff on HBO Max? I mean, I agree with them. Do the big tentpole movies at the theaters, yes, but don't just throw the streaming service out the door.
Well, but that's the thing too. If they just do tent poles, if one of those fail, right? It's the problem with tent poles is actual tent poles, right? If you're
Yeah.
in a tent and one of those poles doesn't perform,
What in the hell are you even saying right now?
have you ever been in
You
a
know the
tent,
problem
Joe?
with the tents with the poles, and you
Have
kids,
you ever
I
been
don't
in
know.
a tent, Joe?
I mean, let's call. Hold
If
on,
you
I almost quoted somebody we used to know 15, 20 years ago.
I actually that quote ran through my head 2 days ago. Uninvited.
Oh, that these poles, now Chad Dweeble D, these poles. Now, if
But-
they fall, these poles are going to fall.
Well, and that's the entire point, though. What my point
I think
is,
you need
like
fucking
right
solid
now,
poles. Then
Warner
next thing you
Brothers.
got is Hitler.
Warner Brothers has the #1 movie in America with Super Pets, right?
I don't know.
That's
My kid
not-
demanded that he sees it.
It's #1 at the box office. That's not a tentpole style film, though, right? I mean,
No.
that's not Batman. That's not. So, are you going to start doing away with that? Now, admittedly, you wouldn't be the way you kick off your summer. But that's a brilliant marketing strategy to close out the summer when the kids are going back to school. Parents want to take them for one last movie or drop them off and have some peace and quiet at the flipping house, whatever. So I guess that's my kind of concern is if they're saying, oh, we're a tentpole company. Well, you get a couple, I'm going to use Waterworld. You get a couple Waterworlds where, yeah, they performed, but not as well as you hoped. Then your tent starts to collapse. You can't rely.
Now, see, the poles fall down.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. If you've been in a tent and you've been in a tent where the poles malfunction, you got a
lost
problem.
me with these poles. pull.
I don't know, and I'm kind of like I said, I'm kind of with Joe, except for rare instances like Peacemaker or Doom Patrol. I'm a little superheroed out, and I'm just like I don't like they're hedging all their bets on Harry Potter, which let's
It's
be honest,
declining. I
it's
mean, I'm
yeah.
not being mean.
I don't know how much further you could dig into that hole, and
What?
then you're just going to revisit Wonder Woman, Batman, and Superman, and my guess is the Green Lantern TV show that was going to come to HBO Max is pretty much gone. That hasn't been announced yet, but I'm sure it's scrapped.
Yeah.
I'm comic booked out. I'm like, it's just this whole thing just makes no sense to me, especially the Batgirl thing. I'm like, at least
Well,
let
I
him
never
finish it.
understand why you don't put it. I mean, I get that you may have an inferior product and that you may not, but I don't understand why you just don't drop it on the streaming service where
Yeah, I
people
mean, that's
literally
what Netflix.
already buy it just for the DC stuff.
I was going to say most of Netflix's movies they make a big deal about are subpar at best. I'm like,
Yes.
so just put it on, and then I don't putting it as a tax write down. It makes no sense to me. So, and it makes no sense to most people out there in the world.
But you would have had people went to see that one just because it had Michael Keaton as Batman again.
Yeah,
I agree with you.
and Brendan Fraser as a villain.
Yeah, I mean, literally, that's what I was like. Oh, Brendan Fraser, bring back the '90s. Let's go to the pictures. But
yeah, I just drop it on streaming if you don't want to, because I mean, as much as I shit on streaming, and we've shit on streaming quite a bit here, it is nice from time to time just to watch something at home and not have to get a damn babysitter.
and can I
finish?
say something else real quick?
I mean, you're going to.
Yeah, I'm going to. But if you all disagree with me, I'll be shocked. All right. HBO, focus on me. Zoom in a little bit. Okay, let's look. You let Snyder finish the crap fest.
I
No.
agree. I agree.
Finish Batgirl.
They spent another $90 million to finish that, right?
Oh yeah, yeah.
That was the report of what it cost to make his Snyder cut, that 4-piece shit fest that was just longer and here I'm going to give him credit. I will say this. To me, I saw both versions. It's this much, and if you're listening, it's about a half an inch, little bit better than the shit fest that Joss Whedon finished and gave us. Slightly.
Yeah, I agree. Slightly, but it's still not that much. It's still
Well, I know you hate them both, but will you admit that it's slightly better than the?
No, it's better. Yeah,
It's but it's so overblown, so boring in parts.
Yeah,
Just makes slight more sense.
the whole aspect ratio thing. What?
Steppenwolf is still kind of a stupid villain in the damn.
Yeah, he's awful.
Why it wasn't? I almost said Judge Dredd. Why it wasn't?
Darkseid.
Darkseid. I have no idea.
Yeah, that whole movie.
It also is going to. I forgot. It was also going to give us J.K. Simmons as Gordon.
Yeah,
I would have liked to see that.
Just whatever. Warner Brothers itself has had a long history of just botching all of their properties. I mean, it's just they don't know how to do anything with them. And now that they've been bought out, it seems like the company who's mostly known for reality shows is doing it even worse than it was before. And I'm just like, how much damage more can you do?
Well, because they killed the next Scooby movie.
They did kill the next Scooby movie. And by the way, was that also mostly done?
Yeah.
It was, yeah.
Holiday Haunt. It was allegedly going to come out at Christmas, I guess. Holiday Haunt's dead.
But why don't they just buy? Oh my god, I hated that other Scoob film, but my kid hated it too, and then he rewatched it a month ago, and this is awesome. Watched it 3 times. Oh, it's awful.
Well, no, but that's what. But again, everything doesn't have to be for me.
No,
but if you're that close,
would have enjoyed it. My kid would have enjoyed it and watched it. It'd be another reason for me to keep HBO Max. Is like, oh shit, that Scooby movie's coming on at Christmas.
Yeah. I mean, and quite frankly, I've been hanging on to. I mean, literally, right now we haven't thought about canceling, but any streaming service. But right now, hold a gun to my head, and we actually had a conversation about it earlier today. If we had to cancel one, I'm leaning toward HBO Max because there's not as much stuff coming out I want to see. We watch all the Marvel shows, so of course Disney Plus has to stay.
Well, that's
especially with Disney Plus starting to put on the R-rated Deadpool and stuff. Real nice. I mean, wow.
asking me about it the other day. He's like, "Well, what is it? Well, why can't I watch it? It's on Disney."
Yeah.
Yeah,
What you need to
I'm not
do.
I mean, I
I
just
know I love
gave
the
up
fact
on
that
the argue. He gave
Yeah.
up on the argument, but
well, that's it. But,
he had a good point. It's like I let him loose with everything else on Disney Plus. Here's a remote, son.
yeah. But anyway, no, but and so HBO Max is the one that I'm like, I'll keep Hulu. Hulu occasionally has some stuff I enjoy on it. I also have to keep it to watch my What We Do in the Shadows.
There's just too many streaming
And
services.
Shoresy, I've got to keep it for Shoresy and Letterkenny and stuff like that. But HBO Max, if they do, if Peacemaker ends up not making it, and like Chad said, Doom Patrol, their TV shows, and I watched the George Carlin biography, so I'm done with that now. So what is there? I mean,
And I
they're
just
going to have to bring something to the table.
I just finished the Paul Newman one done by Ethan Hawke, Paul Newman, and it's really good. Oh, and I do want to shit on a movie if we got a moment.
Well, yeah, we do.
Change the subject.
Sure.
So I had 2 or 3 days the other day where we took off, and the kid likes to go into movies, which is I can't imagine my son.
He
How-
likes the moving
he
pictures.
likes stories and movies. It's like Jesus, how that happened?
Because if he didn't, he got a belt upside the head.
Well, that's not even it. But I'm happy. It's something I enjoy doing and we can do together. So he wanted to see the new Jurassic World. I know you guys aren't fans. However, I enjoyed the first Jurassic World. I like the haunted house one. If I said before on our dinosaur episode of part 2, I took him to see Jurassic World Dominion. That movie is awful. Guys, it's worse than Jurassic Park 2 or 3. I promise. And here's the reason why it's awful. I fell asleep almost twice. It's so damn boring. And it's like Indiana Jones. They're jet setting all over the world, different things. And Christy and I looked at each other like, where the fuck is the dinosaurs? You're trying to whisper it because he's sitting there watching it and he gets bored about a few minutes into it. But the dinosaurs come back and he was okay. It's awful. Complete waste of everybody who's in that movie. The villain's terrible.
Who directed it?
The same guy that directed Jurassic World. He came back when remember he was the one who was going to
Colin Trevorrow.
Colin Trevorrow. He was going to direct the third Star Wars. He was going to be the one who did the finale. And some of the beats in it, if you go back and read the script, actually came from his script, which is a slightly not great, but better than what we ended up with.
Oh yeah.
So, no idea. He got shit on. Did you see that little movie he made? Dean Norris is the bad guy, is the next door neighbor, and the kid dies and leaves his brother or something. It's not bad. I can't remember the name of it.
Yeah, I know. I haven't seen it, but yeah.
Remember, it just rampaged, and it was. And Chad, don't get me wrong, can't recommend the movie, but it wasn't that bad. It's like people who shit all over the Lone Ranger. Remember, Tarantino came out a few years ago. It's like don't get me wrong, but this is not the worst movie I saw this year.
No, no, and actually,
I saw the Lone Ranger. It's overblown, but the third act is pretty good, and there's Johnny Depp as a. Yeah, don't get me wrong.
There's some problems, but I was entertained.
I enjoyed the train scene.
That's what I'm. Is that the third act? The whole third act is in the train.
I think. Right? Yeah, and that train scene goes on for a long time, but I enjoyed it.
Forever. And it's a well thought out idea of having a white guy playing a Native American to begin with, but.
By the way, Chad, sorry, this just popped up in my feed.
What?
It's not confirmed yet, but I'll just read it. Warner Brothers Discovery has actually been on a cancellation spree for a little longer than is immediately apparent. While Harley Quinn, Doom Patrol, and Titans all have devoted fan bases and critical acclaim, lesser-known projects were quietly axed in recent months, including the announced Wonder Twins project, Ridley Scott's science fiction series Raised by Wolves, and Made for Love. On the CW side of things, pretty much the entire Arrowverse has been canceled or shortened.
Yeah.
TNT and TBS both have had their budgets cut. And so none of this is looking good for the likes of Harley Quinn and Doom Patrol, which will probably be announced soon.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Well,
it's just depressing.
It's
Doom Patrol. Doom Patrol is amazing, and it shouldn't be canceled.
It's better than it has any right to be. Like I agree with you, Chad. I enjoy the living daylights out of it, but
What did I
literally,
miss? I could never make it past like the third or fourth episode.
yeah, I felt the same way a little bit, Joe. I was
Yeah,
with you because
those
I was like,
those first
but
couple
then
episodes are rough, but then you get in, then they start moving, and that's when it gets fun.
yeah, and you get into the character because the beginning's really kind of depressing
Pressing, yeah.
because it's these people
Well,
are
it's funny.
terrible.
It's kind of funny. I kind of thought it was funny.
It's
The
fun,
first
but it's
episode wasn't
depressing.
the problem. It's like the second and third one that was getting me. Is like, oh God, where does this
Yeah,
get?
but anyway, but no, I agree, and I guess that's my concern is if we're focused on low budget or tent pole, what about all the I don't want to say experimental, but what about the mid range? What about
The mid
Well,
range got
I was
killed
gonna
in
say,
the theater and now is getting killed on streaming.
I was gonna
yeah,
say Disney doesn't have a mid range, so I think that's what this guy from this Discovery guy is trying to recreate. Is going, we're just not going to do anything mid range, which that's the problem. Is as studios stop worrying about letting things like that may not be up here at the top level seep by, we're not going to find anything new or entertaining like Peacemaker, like Doom Patrol,
Right.
like Raised by Wolves, which I will admit this last season of Raised by Wolves was a little rough to get through. But it's just certain things you need to let things. Everybody needs to quit focusing on the blockbusters. I'm just so sick of blockbusters.
well, and the problem is there's not been a blockbuster that felt like one lately. And what I mean by that, going back to Joe's point about Jurassic World or Jurassic, what is this one? Jurassic
Dominion.
Funhouse?
I'm
I don't
serious,
know. It doesn't
guys.
matter.
It's pretty bad. I mean, it's.
I gotta ask this because my stance on Jurassic Park 3. Is it as bad or worse
I
than
think
Jurassic Park 3?
I haven't seen.
hate
Oh,
Jurassic
so my least favorite one wasn't part 3, even though it's pretty stupid. My least favorite one was Spielberg's sequel, Jurassic Park. What was the second Jurassic Park's name? I don't even remember. Oh,
Lost World?
Lost World. That one was my least favorite because I thought it was so bad.
Oh, part 3. I mean, I heard the
Part
rumor
3's
leak.
dumb, but I don't have. I thought it was worse than both of those because I don't remember them being boring. This one was extremely boring.
Well, I guess that's my point is that yes, Blockbuster was about how well it sold and did it break 1 million or whatever. But also, Blockbuster used to mean you've got to see this on the big screen. There's
Right.
something to this, and I'm not feeling that.
I mean, it's probably Top Gun is the one thing that everybody had to see on the, and I haven't seen it, so I'm not going to shit on. We're not big Top Gun fans on here, but I haven't seen the new one, and that's the one thing that you hear though, right?
I'm just saying, is Top
For
Gun
this
really that
summer.
well when Iron Eagle has 4 films already? Seems a little slow. If it was good, wouldn't it have 4 films too? That's
I
fine.
do want to. Speaking of streaming, and this is the last thing I want to talk about, but whatever you all want to talk about, but I was telling Chad this, and this is going to be an unpopular opinion. I'm having the damnedest time making through this last season of Discovery, and I'm Star Trek'd out. Speaking of Paramount Plus and that, I just the one. Okay, so the worst fans on earth are who?
Star Wars
admit it,
fans.
Star Wars fans are the worst fans on earth. They're just the most, and I don't think all Star Wars fans are awful.
No.
If
No.
you are a racist, you're probably Star Wars.
Not all Star Wars fans.
No, it's the same. It's the joke we do about Republicans. But anyway, I'm half-heartedly joking, but Star Wars fans are just awful sometimes.
Well, if you don't, and go ahead, I'll make my point in a minute. You go first. Sorry.
But oh my God, they need to cut down the Star Trek just a little. There doesn't, and not every season has to be 17, 20 episodes. That was a good thing about Strange New Worlds was it was only 10 episodes, and it leaves you wanting more. So the positive thing I like about Disney Plus and Star Wars is it's 6 episodes, it's 7 episodes. It just doesn't go on and on. Some of this Star Trek shit insists upon itself. And you all know I love Star Trek. I do love Star Trek. James, defend me a little bit on this. I have
No. I've got a point. I'll echo you a little bit. Now, I love Star Trek, and I actually have enjoyed Discovery. But here's my point I will make about Discovery. And I love it. And if somebody shares this with people who make the show, do not get me wrong. God bless you for helping Star Trek come back.
Yeah, I agree.
B, actually, the character development has been, for many of those characters, really good and actually pretty nuanced. That being said, somebody pointed this out, and I was like, all right, this is one I have to acknowledge. The problem with the entire season about the burn is that in The Next Generation, there's about 7 different episodes where they encounter aliens that use other forms of warp travel, not relying on dilithium. And somebody pointed that out and went step by step. Well, they could use the Romulan method, which doesn't use dilithium. They could use the blah, blah, blah method. They could use, and I was like, yep, all right, that's fair. Because we had all that data. I mean, quote unquote, in universe. They would have had that data. They would have been like, oh, dilithium doesn't work anymore. All right, we'll try this. And I was like, that's a fair critique. And I think that's one of the things that is a big difference is for, much like the issue with Star Wars fans, for Star Trek fans that are obsessed with canon, I do understand where things like that in Discovery make them upset. I can understand it. It doesn't bother me per se because, to quote the great William Shatner, it's just a TV show. That being said, I understand it. I understand where you're coming from. What I do love about Discovery is, and I've said this before, I've said it, I will watch Jet Reno eat licorice and mock people 14 hours a day. You give Tig Notaro her own spinoff, and
but she's not on every episode.
No. But when she is on an episode, my enjoyment of that episode goes up.
I agree. She's the Uncle Arthur of Star Trek.
Yeah. She is, and that's exactly what I want. That being said, I find some of the characters compelling. Again, I've said it before. Stamets as a character, I love. Actually, Dr. Culber. These are characters that have, they've got something going for them that I identify with. I enjoy. That being said, do you think part of the issue with Discovery is everybody gets their time? And that sounds terrible. Let me word that a different way.
Bit. I mean, there's not
in the original series, in The Next Generation, you had, and so the original series, you had Kirk, Spock, McCoy. Those were your 3, but then you had the other characters, and they were important. My favorite character is Scotty. I'm not, but 3, and then you had the rest, right?
Yeah.
And Next Generation, you really had Picard, Riker, early on, especially.
Yeah.
And then you had other characters. But I mean, Worf wasn't a main character really till what, the 3rd season?
At least the 3rd season. Data, they brought on more and more for the first season, a little bit.
Data became Spock. And I'm not trash. I love Star Trek. That being said, I think that's one of the challenges, because with every other show, back when you had 20 some episodes, when you started a series where, okay, this is your focus. Like, we're going to follow Picard. Actually, The Next Generation starts. You follow Riker when he's assigned to the ship. And Riker and Picard, the interaction there. And that's how you start. And then eventually you add on the other characters. That may be my only critique. Or not my only, but a big critique of mine with Discovery. We started following all these characters way too fast. And I love Stamets. I love Reno, Culber. I love these characters. That being said, there's a lot to follow. And I think they've started to trim it down a little bit, because you do have, this person's going here. But
to be honest with you, I can't remember the last season to the next season. And I didn't care for the 2nd season of Picard either. I thought it was boring as hell. So that's just me. I may be a little Star Trek out. I did enjoy Strange New Worlds. There were a couple of clunkers.
I love Strange New Worlds. Strange New Worlds. I've said this off the air. I'll say it on there. Strange New Worlds is just been compelling to me for several different factors. Look, and I'm not going to sugarcoat. I love the original series, so it's doing the, to quote Joe Lewis, quoting South Park, it's giving me the member berries. It's
very much member berries.
Spoiler alert: that last episode of the season,
yes,
which basically is a giant what if episode.
Mm-hmm.
God, I was sitting there when it did the flashback, and I've already said it. My favorite character, they never show him, but you just hear him speak. And I was like, It was great. It was great. I will admit. So I know they're pandering to people like me at times. I'll watch it all, but I'm with you, Joe. It's
It's a little long on the tooth.
I think, but actually, can I make a quick counterpoint?
Yeah.
You know what has been a great
No,
sa-
actually, you cannot do that. You're
Can I make a fair to middle and counterpoint? You want a great salve, if you will, to my Star Trek, because I agree. Discovery I enjoy, but it takes a little bit more out of me. I don't know psychologically, because I think a lot of Discovery is more about trauma. Quite frankly, we
Yeah,
know what's going to happen in Strange New Worlds. Discovery deals with a lot of trauma.
yeah.
And being able to end the season of Discovery, and yes, Strange New Worlds came along, and I love Strange New Worlds, but to also jump back to the Orville, I enjoy Orville quite a bit. The
Mhm.
new season, the episode
Oh.
which is now wrapped up, I enjoy the Orville.
I'm gonna have to fight you on that one. I am so bored with this new season of the Orville.
Really, is it because they dropped a lot of the humor?
Yes,
I
that's exactly why. And I just think I think some of it's lazy, and they are directly ripping off Star Trek now, which
Well,
I'm like, why?
I've got bad news, Jim.
Well, it was like the comedy made it different. They were ripping off Star Trek, obviously, but they were adding humor to it, which gave it that new element. Now they've gotten rid of the humor. It's all serious, and now it's just a direct word for. It's not even an homage. No, you're ripping off Star Trek.
See, I think they go further than Star Trek will now. I
Uh,
honestly do. The episode that has to
I
do with
haven't
the
watched
gender of the child,
yeah,
that entire thing, like Star Trek would have found a way to sugarcoat that and keep everybody happy.
but even that's a heavy conversation. I even found that episode problematic. I was having a hard time with that one. So it
Well,
was,
I kind of like it because whereas basically Star Trek, somebody would have quoted the Prime Directive or something like that and said, well, that's what we're going to do. They basically, I mean, they say, screw it. We're doing it anyway, right? And they find a way around it, and they do. I guess a little bit it brought back, I guess if I had to do a Star Trek parallel, that was a Kirk episode. That was
Yeah.
well, we're not supposed to, but to quote Deep Space Nine, the man was a menace. But
yeah,
anyway,
I usually try not to show, but yeah, no, the Orville. I've been trying to get through Orville, and just every episode, I'm like, this is from that Star Trek episode. This is from that Star Trek episode.
I haven't watched it this season, so I mean,
It's been rough for me. I'll be honest with you. It has been rough. It has. I got through Star Trek Discovery. I had a rough time with that. I love Strange New Worlds. I agree with Joe about Picard. Picard was. I still love Lower Decks.
I love Lower Decks. I'm so looking. That's actually August 25th, I think. I am so looking forward to Lower Decks because I know it's going to be a search for Spock type ripoff. They have shown that enough. I don't care. Let's go. Let's steal the ship. Let's get the captain back. Let's go. Let's go. I wanted to see it.
I didn't finish Lower Decks yet.
I love Lower Decks. It's just what, and I love the fact Lower Decks makes some people angry. Is this what Star Trek has become? Fun? Yeah, I guess so. Sorry. And again, if you're a diehard fan, you don't enjoy any of the new stuff. I understand that. That's fine. As I've said before, and as I've had to come to terms about certain things, not everything's made for everybody. And there some Star Trek episodes that I sit back and be like, yeah, well, that one wasn't for me. It's fine. It doesn't have to be for me. There's for somebody else. Speaking of which, gentlemen, I do have one point I want to make, and I think this is on HBO Max, and it's a show that I've been watching with my son. Have you all watched the Blade Runner anime? They did. It was HBO. It's Warner Brothers and Crunchyroll, the anime.
No, I haven't seen it.
I forget the subtitle of it. Is it Black Swan or something like that? Doesn't matter. It's a Blade Runner anime. It was on Adult Swim, and now you can watch it there. It is not it's not a comedy like on Adult Swim. It's very much in the anime style. But if you've not seen it, check it out. It strikes a good balance between the original Blade Runner and 2049, but it's about somebody that quote unquote wakes up. And that's, I mean, it's kind of a mystery. It's kind of, we haven't finished it yet, so I can't tell you, but it is, there's a couple episodes that actually get so intense that my something else for a little while. Like usually he'll marathon a show. He's been marathoning that Naruto the kids like so much, but he can't marathon that. He's like, he'll watch 2 episodes and he'd be like, I need some time to think about that. Okay. So, and he's the one that picked out. He goes, "What's Blade Runner?" I'm like, "Well, it's one of my favorite movies, but you ain't watching the." And he goes, "It's a cartoon, Dad." And I said, "Let's check it out. It's fun." So, if you like Blade Runner or anime, check out the Blade Runner show that's on HBO Max.
All right, guys. I think it's time to wrap it up.
Yep.
Thank you all so much for thank you so much, Tweedledee, for our no topic episode. This has been Bonehead Weekly.
Next week, a topic.